The Awakening. The immense Krell-Thorin command vessel hovered at the edge of the Sol system, its crystalline hull absorbing and refracting starlight. Grand Admiral Zevkai stood before the strategic viewing portal, 6 iridescent eyes fixed on the small blue-green planet displayed in the holographic projection. Behind him, the Strategic Council awaited his assessment. "This system," the Admiral began, his voice resonating through vocal chambers that had evolved over millions of years of Krell-Thorin development, contains exceptional resources. Preliminary scans indicate vast deposits of rare elements crucial for our hyperspace network expansion. Senior strategist Mevdora glided forward on gravitational stabilizers, her emerald scales rippling with excitement. "The indigenous species appears primitive, Grand Admiral. They've barely achieved orbital capabilities and still rely on combustion-based propulsion. They call themselves humans." The name hung in the chamber like a discordant note. Elder Counselor Turvex, whose age was measured in millennia, stirred from his meditative state. His voice, rarely heard in council, caused the assembled leaders to turn in surprise. "The designation triggers ancient memory," the elder said, manipulating the console before him with gnarled appendages. "There is a notation in our oldest archives, dating back 12,000 cycles." The chamber fell silent as ancient text materialized in the air, glowing in the oldest dialect of the Imperium's language. Sector 42, System 17, Planet 3. Species designation: human. Classification: extreme CAUT1. Directive: avoid ALCONTAT. Sealed by order of Emperor Draco the Wise. Grand Admiral Zevkai studied the warning, mandibles clicking in contemplation. Interesting. This bears the seal of Emperor Draco himself, from the Second Expansion Era. Ancient superstition, dismissed War Minister Ornlak, her battle carapace gleaming under the chamber lights. The Imperium of that era comprised merely 43 systems. Their understanding of threat assessment was primitive by our standards. Zevkai gestured agreement. The Krell-Thorin Imperium now spans 7 spiral arms and encompasses over 20,000 worlds. What possible threat could a single technologically limited species pose to our dominion? The Strategic Council hummed in unified agreement. No significant military challenge had faced the Imperium in over 6,000 cycles. Their biotechnology and quantum weaponry remained unmatched across known space. "I propose we proceed with standard resource acquisition protocols," continued the Grand Admiral. "We will establish dominance, evaluate resistance capabilities, and implement an efficient path to resource extraction." The vote was unanimous. The ancient warning was dismissed as a relic of a more cautious, less advanced era. The Imperium would claim what it needed, as it always had. 3 solar cycles later, the Harvest Fleet materialized at the edge of Earth's orbit. 700 warships, each capable of sterilizing a continent, accompanied by 2,000 resource extraction vessels. Leading the fleet was Battle Commander Nextul, veteran of 39 successful planetary subjugations. "Commence standard intimidation protocol," Nextul ordered, segmented limbs manipulating the command interface. "Target their largest population centers with precision demonstrations. Once they witness our capabilities, negotiations will be brief." The fleet moved toward Earth, confidence radiating through their collective neural network. But as they crossed the lunar orbit, their sensor arrays detected unusual energy signatures, thousands of them, emerging from what had appeared to be empty space. "Battle Commander," the sensor officer reported, appendages twitching nervously, "we are detecting approximately 12,000 vessels materializing around the planet. They were not there a moment ago." Nextul stared at the tactical display in disbelief. "Impossible. Our sensors would have detected their approach." "They did not approach, Commander," the officer replied. "They were already here, cloaked by technology our sensors cannot penetrate." Before Nextul could process this information, a communication request penetrated their quantum encryption. "This is Admiral Helena Chen of the United Earth Defense Force," a calm human voice stated. Your fleet has entered sovereign human space without authorization. State your intentions immediately. Nextful recovered quickly despite the surprise. The Imperium still possessed superior firepower and bioengineered defenses. "This is Battle Commander Nextful of the Krell-Thorin Imperium," he responded, injecting dominance pheromones into the communication stream, a tactic that had subdued countless species. "Your planet contains resources we require. Surrender immediately, and your species will be permitted limited autonomy under our guidance. Resist, and we will demonstrate our power." There was a brief pause before Admiral Chen responded. "I see. Please hold while I consult with Earth Command." Nextful chittered in amusement to his bridge officers. "They seek to delay. Prepare the demonstration strike. Target their orbital habitats." But before the quantum lances could charge, the tactical display lit up with warnings. The human vessels were moving, not in retreat, but in a complex formation that swiftly surrounded the Imperium fleet. "Battle Commander," the tactical officer reported, "the human vessels are emitting energy signatures unlike anything in our database. They appear to be activating weapons systems." A new transmission came through. "Battle Commander Nextful, this is General Marcus Rodriguez, Earth Command. We have reviewed your demands and find them unacceptable. Furthermore, your presence here violates the Treaty of Proxima, established after your last attempted incursion 12,000 years ago." Nextful froze. "What treaty? What incursion? You don't remember?" Rodriguez's voice carried a note of pity. "Your ancestors learned a painful lesson. We had hoped it would not need repeating." Suddenly, every system on the Krell-Thorin flagship began to shut down. Not just the flagship. Reports flooded in from all 700 warships. Weapons, propulsion, shields, all disabled by an invisible force. "What's happening?" Nextful demanded. "They've penetrated our quantum defenses," the systems officer reported, panic evident in her voice. "They're shutting everything down with a code that appears to have been embedded in our systems for thousands of years." On the view screen, Admiral Chen appeared. Unlike the Imperium's expectations of a primitive species, she wore a sleek uniform with insignia, suggesting a military tradition far older than they had anticipated. "Your ancestors came to Earth when we had just begun exploring our solar system," she explained. "They too dismissed warnings they'd received from other species. They too thought their technology made them invincible." The view screen split to show historical footage. Krell-Thorin ships from 12 millennia ago, systematically disabled and captured by weapons wielded by humans in much more primitive attire. "We could have destroyed your entire fleet then," Chen continued. "Instead, we made a treaty with your survivors. We embedded a failsafe in your most basic quantum systems, a code that would remain dormant unless you violated our space again. We remained within our solar system not because we couldn't expand," she added, "but because we chose not to." Nextful struggled to comprehend. "How is this possible? You were primitives. You should have been easy to conquer." General Rodriguez joined the transmission. "Humanity's greatest strength has never been our technology, Commander. It's our adaptability. When faced with extinction, we advance more in a decade than most species do in millennia. When threatened, we don't just fight back, we evolve." The tactical display updated to show new vessels emerging from hyperspace. Not hundreds, but thousands. Ships that dwarfed even the largest Imperium vessel. "What you see now is only a fraction of our defense force," Rodriguez continued. "We maintain the appearance of a developing civilization because we prefer peace, but we never stopped preparing for the day your people might forget the lesson of the past." Emperor Drogsoul, watching from the Imperium throne world via quantum link, finally understood the gravity of their mistake. The ancient warning hadn't been superstition. It had been the hard-won wisdom of survivors. "Battle Commander," said the Emperor, his voice uncharacteristically subdued, "you will accept whatever terms the humans offer for your safe return. The Imperium formally withdraws all claims to their system. As the Krell-Thorin fleet hung immobilized in space, surrounded by human vessels displaying technology that should have been impossible, Nextol realized with cold clarity what the ancient warning had truly meant. Humans weren't dangerous because they were powerful. Humans were dangerous because when challenged, they became more powerful than anyone could predict. And the Imperium had just challenged them again. The Reckoning. The emergency session of the Krell-Thorin Imperial High Council had been in progress for 7 cycles without interruption. The Grand Chamber, normally a model of order and decorum, now buzzed with anxious voices and conflicting opinions. How could we have been so blind? Councillor Zithvin demanded, slamming a segmented limb against the crystalline table. 12,000 cycles ago, our ancestors faced these humans, and were so thoroughly defeated that they embedded warnings in our most sacred texts. Emperor Droxel sat silently on the ancestral throne, his exoskeleton dulled with stress. The fleet had been allowed to return minus their quantum weapon systems, with a simple message. A diplomatic delegation from Earth would arrive at the Imperium's capital world in 14 days to discuss the path forward. We should evacuate the core worlds, suggested First Strategist Mevdora. Disperse our population across the uncharted regions. They clearly possess technology far beyond our understanding. Running would be pointless. Emperor Drogzul finally spoke. You've all seen the analysis. They disabled our entire fleet with code that had been dormant in our systems for millennia. If they wished to destroy us, they could have done so already. He gestured to an ancient data crystal that had been retrieved from the deepest archives. We need to understand what truly happened 12,000 cycles ago. The complete records were sealed by Emperor Drakel himself. With solemn ceremony, the crystal was placed in the center of the council table. A holographic projection flickered to life. The personal log of Drakel, recorded after first contact with humanity. The ghostly image of the ancient emperor appeared, his exoskeleton cracked and his posture showing signs of severe injury. I record this as my final act as emperor, the ancient leader began. Our expedition to System 17 has ended in catastrophic failure. We detected the third planet as rich in resources, with a dominant species that had only recently achieved spaceflight. We believed them primitive, easy to subjugate. The council chamber fell silent as the ancient emperor described their first attempt at conquest, how humanity had appeared helpless at first, their primitive weapons useless against Krell-Thorin biotechnology. But then, continued the recording, within days, the humans had somehow adapted. They developed countermeasures that should have taken centuries to conceive. When we destroyed one of their cities as a demonstration, they didn't surrender, they unified. Within 1 cycle, they had reverse-engineered our quantum shielding. Within 3, they had weapons that could penetrate it. The hologram showed footage of human ships, clearly hastily constructed yet devastatingly effective, tearing through the ancient Krell-Thorin fleet. Their adaptability defies all evolutionary models. Drakel continued. They think differently, faster, more creatively, more ruthlessly when threatened. We lost 80% of our expedition force before retreating. The humans pursued us to the edge of their system, where we expected to die. The ancient emperor's mandibles clicked in what the council recognized as profound disbelief. Instead of destroying us, they offered terms. They would spare our remaining ships if we agreed never to return to their system. They embedded a failsafe in our quantum systems, insurance against future incursions. They showed mercy when we had shown none. The final words of Emperor Drakel echoed through the chamber. I have sealed this record with my highest authority. Let it stand as warning to future generations. Humanity must be left alone. Not because they are weak, but because awakening their full potential would spell doom for any who oppose them. The hologram faded, leaving the modern council in stunned silence. And we ignored this warning. Elder Counselor Turvex said softly, "We may have awakened something terrible." The silence was broken by an alert. The human diplomatic vessel had arrived, 3 days earlier than expected. When the human delegation entered the grand chamber, the assembled Krell foreign leaders were surprised by their appearance. Instead of the military uniforms they had expected, the 5 humans wore simple attire that suggested scholarly or diplomatic roles rather than martial ones. Leading them was a silver-haired woman who introduced herself as Dr. Eleanor Reyes, Director of Sinological Relations. Emperor Dragzul. She began without ceremony. 12,000 years ago, your people and mine reached an understanding. That understanding has now been breached. The Emperor lowered his head in acknowledgement. We have just reviewed the records of that encounter. Our arrogance led us to dismiss the warnings of our ancestors. We accept full responsibility for this violation. Dr. Reyes studied the Emperor carefully. You're wondering why we didn't simply destroy your fleet when we had the chance. The question has occupied our thoughts, the Emperor admitted. 12 millennia ago, humanity was young, frightened, and nearly destroyed by your ancestors' aggression, she explained. We responded with everything we had, not because we were advanced, but because we had no choice. The aftermath taught us something profound. Species that resort to conquest eventually self-destruct. We chose a different path. She gestured, and one of her companions activated a holographic display showing the Sol system, not as a military target, but as a vibrant, diverse civilization. We could have expanded across the galaxy, Dr. Rice continued. Instead, we chose to grow inward, to explore the depths of science, philosophy, and consciousness. We developed technologies that would have seemed godlike to our ancestors, then chose to conceal them behind a facade of modest development. First strategist Mevdora leaned forward. But why maintain the deception? Why appear vulnerable when you are not? A younger human stepped forward. Dr. Marcus Chen, grandson of Admiral Helena Chen. Because we recognized a pattern across history, he explained. Advanced civilizations that display their power invite challenge. Those that appear harmless are often left in peace. We wanted peace, not conflict. We wanted to be left alone to pursue our own path. And now, Emperor Dragzul asked, what happens now that we have disturbed your solitude? Dr. Ray smiled, but there was a sadness in it. Now we must adapt again. Your incursion has forced us to reveal ourselves not just to you, but to the galaxy at large. The quiet age of humanity is ending. She handed the Emperor a data crystal. This contains our terms. They are, I believe, generous. We do not seek retribution or tribute. We ask only for respect of our boundaries and formal acknowledgement of our sovereignty. As the Emperor accepted the crystal, Dr. Chen added, there is something else you should know. The reason we asked to meet you here, rather than continuing our discussion in the Sol system. The youngest member of the human delegation activated another holographic display. This one showing astronomical data that caused the Krell foreign scientists present to gasp in recognition. We've been monitoring trans-dimensional incursions from what you call the void between galaxies, Dr. Chen explained. Something is coming. Something that poses a threat to all sentient life in this sector. War Minister Ornlak studied the data with growing alarm. These energy signatures, they match ancient legends of the Devourers. Yes, confirmed Dr. Reyes. We've been tracking them for nearly 2 centuries. Our models predict they will reach inhabited space within 50 years. This is the real reason we maintained our isolation and apparent technological restraint. We've been preparing for this threat. Emperor Dragzul's compound eyes reflected the ominous data. Why tell us this? Why not let us face this threat unprepared? As punishment for our transgression. Dr. Rice's expression hardened. Because that is not who we are. Humanity has evolved beyond petty vengeance. The coming darkness threatens us all. We believe that together, we stand a better chance than either of us would alone. For the first time, in 12,000 cycles, a human hand extended in genuine offering to a Krell foreign leader. Your ancestors saw only one face of humanity, our capacity for devastating self-defense. Now you have the opportunity to see another, our capacity for cooperation when faced with a common enemy. Emperor Droxel hesitated only briefly before extending his own appendage. The Krell-Thorin Imperium accepts your terms, Dr. Reyes, and your offer of alliance against the coming threat. 1 year later, in orbit around a neutron star at the edge of Krell-Thorin space, a joint research facility housed scientists from 27 species, all working together under human guidance to prepare for the coming invasion. Grand Admiral Zevkai, now liaison to the Human Defense Force, stood beside Admiral Helena Chen as they watched the testing of a new trans-dimensional barrier. "I still don't understand," the Admiral admitted. "Why did your people wait so long to reveal yourselves to the galaxy? With your technology, you could have established dominance millennia ago." Admiral Chen smiled. "Because dominance was never our goal, Admiral. Humanity learned long ago that true power isn't measured by territory controlled or resources claimed. It's measured by knowledge gained and wisdom applied." She gestured toward the assembled species working in harmony below. "This is what we've been working toward all along. Not conquest, but cooperation. Not an empire, but a community." As the barrier successfully repelled a simulated devourer attack, cheers erupted from the scientists below, Krell-Thorin voices harmonizing with human and dozens of others. "The elders knew the truth," Zevkai said quietly. "Humans truly are unstoppable, not because of your weapons, but because of how you think. How you adapt, how you bring others together." "Not unstoppable," corrected Admiral Chen. "Just determined. When the devourers come, they'll face not just humanity, but all of us standing together. And that, Admiral, is a force that even they cannot hope to withstand." The ancient warning had been right all along. Humanity was dangerous, but not in the way the Krell-Thorin had feared. Humans were dangerous because they could transform adversaries into allies, conflict into cooperation, and fear into hope. And as the shadow of the devourers grew closer, that dangerous quality might be exactly what saved them all.